start the. So I want to thank everybody for showing up to this August 3rd, Thursday webinar, Legal Shield and Field Notes. Today we have Kathy Prinky, and she will be talking about Sparky, uploading contacts with Sparky, getting your leads from Legal Shield at work, and that whole ordeal. So she does have a group focus for this, but I think this is good information if you're trying to understand how to utilize Sparky and upload your data at the same time. I think this will work for anybody. So you're welcome to share your screen if you'd like. There she is.
Are you seeing the PowerPoint?
Oh, she got a PowerPoint for us and everything, everybody.
Everything. Yeah. And did you get, I sent it to you, Jeremy, as well. And
Yes.
so that you have it. let me start here from the beginning. And as many of you know, I was very excited about Fieldnotes for lots of reasons, one of which was Sparky. And the other one, I think, is really this community and the support that Jeremy gives us. So I think those are two very unique features of Fieldnotes that you don't really have with other CRMs. So what I knew is, having tried to work with, Zoho and HubSpot in the past, was that when I ran into a snag, I needed a pathfinder to kind of help me. So I knew I needed a CRM. I knew I had lots of communications to manage, whether it's at the group level or with individual members. And I do have a full service team, and I'm a field trainer. So I use Fieldnotes for all aspects of my business, but the vast majority of volume of my business that I really work with is in the group arena. So that is, what we're going to focus on a little bit here today. But I agree with Jeremy. Hopefully, the concepts and how I approach this, you could really, whether you're downloading data from your member report in LS Engage, or you're getting it from Shield at Work for a group situation, I think the concept really applies to both. So really, I want you to think about, how to use Fieldnotes, making friends with Sparky for group business, but really it's all about uploading data from Legal Shield into Fieldnotes so that you can use the system and really the power of what a CRM can do for you. So with that, hang on one second here. It's not cooperating, of course. So yeah, what I want to start with is kind of where I started when a couple years ago, I started working with Fieldnotes, and I just thought, okay, I'm just going to go in, because the first thing I wanted to do was get all my groups, and there's a typo here. Sorry for that. I want to get all my group information from Shield at Work and get it into the system, because that's where my communication kind of starts, with working with groups and group members. So I went to Shield at Work, to basically the landing page here. And I know I blurred it all out because it's got a lot of account information, but on the bottom here, you'll see where it says export group detailed report. And that is where you can click, and it's going to download all of your groups and tell you, who the primary contact is and all kinds of good information on that. So you're going to get an Excel spreadsheet. And then again, what I did on this slide was just kind of show you that this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have the group number, the group name. On column C, I inserted that to say you want to put the company. Typically, the group name and the company name are the same, but Sparky doesn't know that. So I add that column for the company name. Most of the columns that you see in black across this sheet are directly out of how it comes from Shield at Work. I don't change anything other than the two things that I have highlighted in yellow, And then I'm going to show you some things here I have in the notes, and all of the instructions for how to do this. I did put it in an email to Jeremy so he can post that, share it out to you, whatever is helpful. Because I just wanted to kind of give you step-by-step instructions that you could, after you watch this presentation and kind of understand conceptually what I did and how I did it, then you can kind of step through the step-by-step instructions. So basically what I did was very little changes to what came out of Shield at Work. Because most of the information that I need to get into Fieldnotes is directly out of what we have in the Shield at Work system. I will tell you that once you open this Excel file that you pull out of Shield at Work, I encourage you to make changes to the file that you want to include, like adding the company. I like to make sure that this column AC, open enrollment month, is correct, because sometimes corporate puts in an open enrollment month based on when the group was open, and that's not really when they do open enrollment. And I just I know that because I work with the groups. So I want to go in and make sure all that's correct, because that's going to drive certain activity of what I use the system for. I also remove columns AE through FR, because that's all kinds of data about what associates are working on the account and other things, and it's not really relevant or information that I want to put into Fieldnotes. So I kind of, everything from AE to the right, I just zorch that information out, because I don't want the system, there's really no place for it to go in the system, and I don't really need that in the system. So I just delete those columns. And then I recommend you consider adding some columns like your sales cycle, the status, plans offered, that ties to your spheres, different things like that. The one that was most important to me is the status, which is active group. And that status is how I am able to filter my active groups, because at this point I've got thousands of contacts in Fieldnotes. And when I want to look at just my active groups, I want to be able to go in and filter those and have that view that I can pull up and kind of pull out my active groups from all the thousands of members and other contacts that I have in the system. So that was an important aspect that, honestly, when I was first loading data into the system, I didn't, completely understand that. So I did that. If you want to include your spheres or, active plans offered, that sort of thing. So you need to really think about, I would say the spheres, the sales cycles, and the status are the most important things to maybe consider adding, and that's really going to be your call. In hindsight, I would have added the status active groups on my first load if I had realized why that was important, but I didn't. So I had to kind of do a bulk update later. And then once you've made those additions, changes, double checking things. And in my case, I've got some groups that show up in my report that are not technically my groups, but I have access to them because I'm helping as a field trainer. I'm helping somebody on my team. So you have to make a judgment call of, do you want those groups in your system or not? And that's just depending on what your relationship is with the folks that you're working those groups with. And then I simply took that file, I emailed it to Sparky, and just, basically told Sparky, please add these groups to my contacts. And as I mentioned, once I'm in Fieldnotes, I can go in and then filter on that status, which is active groups. And it can, just pull up a complete report for me in the Fieldnotes system of my active groups. And I can look at that, obviously, if I want to know like what open enrollments are coming up in the next quarter or anything like that, I can further organize the data that way. So that's how I initially got the groups into Fieldnotes. And I will tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. I really was worried that it wasn't going to work well because I'd had so much bad experience with previous CRMs. But to my pleasant surprise, the first time I just sent this to Sparky to see what would happen, I didn't have anything else in my database. I was brand new. And when I saw what Sparky did with that report, I realized the power of having Sparky and how much that saved me. Now, Jeremy has continued to encourage me to map data and learn how to do that. And there's certainly some power in that as well. But if you're like me and either you don't have time or you're just not technically savvy or comfortable with that, I, by all means, say use Sparky. I think that's a key differentiator for this CRM. And that's one of the real benefits. So that's how I initially got started to add my data into Fieldnotes and get started. So then the next step I took was, once the groups were in Fieldnotes, how could I use that? So there's a couple of different ways I've used it, but two of the, I think the primary things to think about is really, like we've got, the Make a Will month going on right now, and there's tons of resources and communication that corporate has developed around this. And if you've got all your members in there, whether you're sending them a text message or actually an email message, whether you want to send it to the group to send out to all employees, or you want to send it to the active members, you can really, and in my case, I'm really looking at two communications, one to the HR group level contact to say, hey, this is a resource for all your employees. And then for the actual active members in the group, I want to send it to them to remind them this is a key part of your benefit. And we've got some, additional support and resources for you this month to help you get that will done. But there's also other educational pieces that you can deliver, or, new member overviews, anything that you want to provide at the group level, you can do that and have that resource be available there as a template in your system. And a lot of those, when I develop a template that I think works well or that I've had a good response to, I'm always willing to share it, because I just feel like, why have everybody reinvent the wheel? That's the power of us working together as a group. If you've got something good that works and you're willing to share it with everybody in the library, then we can all be more effective together. The other thing that Kathy Lucas really started doing, and I thought was a brilliant idea, was scheduling action plans to contact groups or the brokers 90 days prior to open enrollment. When you're servicing groups, that's an expectation of corporate that you're going to be doing that. And it is certainly in our best interest to do that. Groups tend to be very focused in that 90-day window of what's coming up for open enrollment, but they tend to focus on core benefits. The medical, the dental, the vision, they've got all kinds of quotes and things going on there. And because Legal Shield tends to be, pretty stable, we don't have a lot of changes in rates and coverage and all that sort of stuff, they don't really have to worry about us during that window. But unfortunately, what that sometimes results in is they forget about us. And sometimes we don't even get invited to open enrollment unless we're out here kind of waving our hand saying, hey, we're still here, we'd love to support you. And this is just kind of a nice way to automatically trigger that communication to say, hey, let's review things, make sure everything's ready for open enrollment. And it just kind of keeps you top of mind with whether it's the broker or the group contact or both, depending on who you need to reach out to. So then the next thing I want to talk about is, let's add the group members itself. So we've gone through open enrollment, and this is kind of how I approached it, because when I got into Fieldnotes, I already had hundreds of groups. And one of the things I always find very cumbersome and overwhelming is when you have a lot of groups in Shield at work, how do you get all that data from one place to another? Now, some people have administrative support people or a business partner spouse that helps with those sorts of things. I'm kind of a one-man band. So I was like, oh my gosh, how do I not get overwhelmed? So I just sort of took the approach in my first year of what I'm going to do is kind of eat the elephant one bite at a time. And as I am servicing groups, I'm going to make sure that the members after open enrollment, active members get moved into Fieldnotes, and that I send them communications from there. So again, in this case, you're going to log into Shield at Work. You're going to open, and I'm going to show you visually what all this looks like on the next slide. You're going to open the group that you're working with, because there's no way to download all the groups at one time member wise. You can mass download all your groups, but if you want the member information from each of those groups, you have to individually go into the group, open the group, and then get the member report. Download the member report, and you really have a choice, and it's kind of a strategy that you need to think about. Do you want to download only the active members, or do you want to download all members?
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to either way. So it's really something that you want to think about when you start downloading members. Did somebody have a question on that? Yeah, if there are questions or anything, Jeremy, give me a high sign, but
do my best.
Okay, sounds good. So once I have downloaded that file, of course, you can open that up as an Excel file. And what I add to that Excel file is the name of the group, because when you go into Shield at Work, you're in the group. And so it doesn't give you the group name or the group number, because that's the group that you're downloading. But of course, once you save that Excel file, Sparky and you are not going to know what group that's part of unless you happen to recognize the email addresses or something, and you might be able to figure it out. So I always put in a column for the name of the group and company, the group number, the status, the sales cycle, and the plans offered. So I add those 5 columns to what is downloaded from Shield at Work. And then once I have that file, really cleaned up and all the information on it that I need, and it takes, I don't know, 5-10 minutes to do that typically, I send that, then I'll save that report, I'll send it to Sparky, and I tell Sparky, please add or update members in the attached file. And I tell Sparky that legal plan numbers begin with 1, because the first time I sent a report to Sparky, I didn't explain that to Sparky. And I saw right away that he had put identity theft numbers in the legal plan number slot and vice versa. So I always remind Sparky that legal plan numbers begin with the number 1. And if there is no plan number on the member, I want Sparky to insert the text, coverage not yet selected. Do the same thing for ID Shield, although obviously ID Shield starts with 7, not 1. And if there is no number, to insert the text again. The reason I had Sparky insert that text is because when I send out a member welcome, one of the things it says is your legal plan number is 101, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? And your ID Shield plan number is 700, blah, 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 blah. Well, the problem is if you have a member in a group that has one coverage but not the other, they are getting a sort of universal communication around both plans. And I want them to get that, because I want to continue to remind them of both plans and what's included. It's that, multiple exposures that we want to give people. So, because I'm going to be back in there talking to them next year, or if they have something happen in between now and next year's open enrollment, most of our groups are evergreen, which means employees can opt in or out of the benefit at any time. Now, HR doesn't encourage that, and I understand, because that creates a lot of churn for payroll and whatnot. But the reality is, if somebody has an identity theft issue or a legal issue off cycle, we can accommodate that if the group is okay with that. So it's always good to continue to have that exposure. So I strategically made a decision. I want to make sure that I can do this in a way that I continue to expose group members to both services, and that the communication can accommodate that. So the little extra verbiage saying the coverage was not yet selected is just a reminder that you don't have this, but it is still available in your group. So that was why I did that. Now, what that looks like, and I don't know how well this is going to work, but I gave it a whirl here. You go into the group management page. So when you first log into Shield at Work, you're going to go there. you'll click on the group number, and that's gonna take you in. I'm trying to move things around so I can see the screen. That's going to take you into Shield at Work, where you're going to see the tabs of the account, the billing, the enrollment, reports, resources, etc. Click on the reports tab. That's going to take you to this window, and you can choose active members, all members, canceled, pending, whatever you want, with or without dependents. I typically download all members, and I do not download dependent information because I know that's in Shield at Work if I need it. And I typically don't need that in Fieldnotes in order to do the basic communication with a member. Now, below here on step number 4, this is the Excel file, and you can see there's lots of columns on this. So I kind of did 2 screenshots to show you how it looks. But the member number, the last 4, which is always a blank column, but that's part of the download out of Shield at Work, the title, first name, last name, all of those headers that you see in bold black there, those are exactly what comes out of Shield at Work on the member report. The monthly premium, the plan description, pay period amounts, divisions, employee numbers, all of that information just comes right out of Shield at Work. I don't do anything with it other than just download it. And then in columns AF, AG, you can see in all the yellow highlighted here is where I put in the company, the group number, the sales cycle or status of where they are, the spheres, plans chosen, and sales cycle. So Jackie, you had a question on this?
I did. So when you're downloading like this, your addresses, some of them will have an address and then it'll have like an apartment number. Do you change those, or does Sparky take it if you just leave them in address 1 and address 2?
I just leave them exactly the way they are here. And then Sparky's going to load them in address 1 or address 2, depending on which column they're in.
So, but we don't have 2 address spots in. So does he combine it then into all one address?
In Fieldnotes, we have 3. You'll see that you have address 1, address 2, address 3. So whatever's in those fields goes to that field.
Okay.
Right. So whatever, so because we have 3 addresses, and typically I don't know that I've ever seen anything in address number 3, but address 1 and 2, typically one will be the apartment or unit number and the other one will be the street address. It's not always consistent. I don't know why that is. I guess it's just how it gets loaded into the Shield at Work system. However it shows up in Shield at Work, it will map into address 1 and address 2 for Fieldnotes as well.
Oh, save me a lot of time. I'm changing all those, so thank you.
And here's what my philosophy has been from the very beginning. I really want to minimize the amount of manual work that I have to do between the systems. And because all that manual work is just time consuming and it's really not value added, so it's like, okay, is it worth messing with it, knowing that some of these are going to be reversed? Because at the end of the day, as long as all the data is there, I'm not typically mailing stuff out in snail mail anyway. So it's like, do I really need to worry about that? And if in the future I needed to worry about it and get them straightened out in a certain way, obviously I could do some filters and do some bulk updates if I needed to maybe change those things around. So, but for right now, I just don't think it's worth it. I will tell you, I take the plan description in column T, because that'll tell you, is it a legal plan, a family legal plan, individual legal plan, identity theft plan, whatever. And I filter when it's in Excel, I will filter on that to say what plan chosen, because that plan chosen has to match your drop downs in the plan chosen, because that's a drop down field. And so I've got to make sure that I kind of translate what's in column T to what's in my drop down for plans chosen. And so I do some filtering on the Excel spreadsheet to get all the legal plans, all the identity theft plans and whatnot, and then make sure they match the plans chosen for column AJ over here. And that's probably the thing that takes the most time. You know, but to me, you know, I think that's worth it, because then I can filter on that information later if I wanted to just send a message out to people that have just the identity theft or just the legal plans. So I do that. And then once I save that Excel file, I save it and I send it to Sparky with the note that says legal plans start with 1, identity theft plans start with 7. And if there is no plan number, please put this text. So that's kind of how I navigate through the system. I was trying to do this live for you, and then I realized, you know, because I have live actual client data, which obviously I've blurred out here, so, you know, I'm protecting people's information. I just felt like the slide might be helpful as you're working through the instructions. Once a member's in Fieldnotes, then the first thing I want to do is send them a welcome action plan. And that's the action plan that we have saved in the library. And I think there's like 12 or 13 steps there. The first step is just the first email encouraging them to download the phone apps, giving them their member number. And it's probably very redundant with what they may have received from corporate. But what I have found is often the corporate emails are not getting through. And sometimes my emails don't get through either. But my second step, which is in day 2 of that action plan, is a text message. And I don't always have a cell phone number to reach a member, but where I do, I want to make sure that I'm sending them a text message saying, hey, Jackie, just wanted to let you know that we've sent you benefits information from your open enrollment. This is the email address it was sent to. If you don't see it there, you know, this is important benefits information. You know, they're paying for these benefits. Most people are excited about it when they enroll, but, you know, if they get stuck somewhere along the lines of being able to, you know, access the benefit, you know, it can definitely sour their feelings about their benefits that are supposed to be having access to. So I think it's worth the extra effort to send them a personal welcome, to send them a text message. And I have discovered through the text message, a lot of times people are getting the text message and then realizing there's a problem with their email address, or it's also bringing to our attention that maybe there's a firewall problem, because a lot of times we get just company emails. So their firewall is keeping our corporate or my emails as well from being delivered. And we're discovering that because a lot of people that I'm texting are saying, hey, I didn't get it. I looked at junk. I looked here. I looked there. And then I can circle back with their HR people to say, hey, your employees are not getting their benefits information. Can we work with your IT guys to whitelist our email addresses and make sure this information's coming through so they have access to their benefits? And Jeremy, you've got a question?
This is something that I discussed, or we've been discussing, the 33, right?
Yes.
These are things that fall within the 33. These are like 3 of some of those options, like a birthday action plan, sending out a welcome action plan, communicate the will workshops, any of the other workshops, or any other events that you guys, sometimes you guys share. Sometimes there's local lawyers in specific areas doing specific talks about specific topics that you guys kind of intertwine with Legal Shield. So it's like any of those little things that you guys can pass around. It's those things that you build within the 33. And so just wanted to mention for
well,
people,
and I will tell you, I've been working with Cheryl Garcia, which, you know, Cheryl uses Fieldnotes as well. And I've been working with her a little bit on some of the communication and info for the will workshop, or the Make a Will month that we're focused on for August. And she told me yesterday that she's already got 400 people registered for the Colorado law firm presentation.
I saw that.
Yeah, so that is, I think, a great example of, you know, when you can communicate in mass and you have taken the time to put people in your CRM and you're communicating with them, you know, and I always say on somewhat of a regular basis. I think we've all been in situations where we've opted out of emails, not because we didn't want information or be in contact with that company, but just because they're sending us a message every single day. Well, there's very few products that I love enough to get a message every single day. So it's like, I'm just going to opt out of that because I just don't have time to continue to delete all their stuff that they're sending me and sales and marketing information or whatever it is, so it's like, okay, so I always try to say, I want to stay top of mind, but I don't want to be a nuisance. So how do I kind of strike that balance, right? And everybody sees that differently. But, I feel like we know best what works for our clients and the people that we're trying to interact with. And, I recently took over a conservation group, and they're super nice, and they were great about, letting me in and working with me. And even though I know their previous agent was somebody who they really liked, and, when she was more active with Legal Shield, she probably took great care of them, but their feeling was she really kind of abandoned us because she's been busy with other things. And I take all that with a grain of salt, but on the other hand, it was also a good reminder for me is that, if people aren't hearing from us on somewhat of a regular basis, their assumption is we've forgotten about them or we don't care about them anymore, right? So, I do sometimes feel like I don't want to be a nuisance or be contacting them too much. But on the flip side of that, this client conversation was a great reminder of, but you got to have some level of contact with people. And if you're doing that manually for 200 groups, that's hard to do. Right. But if you can automate the system, and of course that 200 groups then translates into thousands of memberships. And, so the communication challenge just gets exponentially large as you grow your business and the group side. But, that's how we get compensated. So we want to have that challenge. And that was basically what I wanted to cover, just to give everybody the basics of how to get information from Legal Shield into Fieldnotes in what I think is a pretty expeditious way, because we don't want to spend a lot of time just managing data. That's the whole point. Hopefully at some point in the future, we'll have an interface between the two systems and we won't have to do this manually at all. But in the meantime, I think this is a really, pretty easy way to move things back and forth. And then once a month, as you see what the, adds and deletes are from each of your groups, you can either update that manually or, I'm working on some automated ways to do that as well. But at least for now, that helps you get started and get the information in the first place. So does anybody have any questions that, maybe this has triggered some thinking for you? Or Jeremy, do you have another issue that you want to speak to?
Well, what I wanted to just say is, like, how do you make your emails get opened? How do you resonate with them? So these are good things, like the welcome.
And I think one of the things is timing is a little bit of it. So if I can, within, 30 days of open enrollment, so when they're open enrollment, let's say open enrollment closed on 7/1, because we had a lot of 7/1 members. Well, to be able to go back, by 8/1 and send them a welcome email and remind, hey, important benefits information, because benefits is top of mind right then for them. So they're looking for benefits information. And a lot of times, people may not respond right away, but they may tuck that email away in a folder because they know that when they need it, it'll be there. I like to have a graphic on my emails, because and a video, if there's something that you can do there. I don't do a lot of personal videos, although, some of you guys know that Doris French and I are friends, and she is a big proponent of having personal videos. And I think that especially groups that you're in front of that do know you, that having a personal video is, I think, really effective if you've been in front of the group. Some of my groups are really big and everything's done virtually, and so they don't really know me personally as well. So I think it's just kind of a judgment call of what's going to work best there. But I do think that video and visuals do help, people engage more with your communication.
What I was going to say is, yeah, create, if you can see, I've seen, just going through YouTube and shorts, I've seen legal topics come up from people making jokes and stuff like that, which I'm pretty sure you guys could chime in and say, that's a perfect, if I was that person, I would just put a Legal Shield logo right beneath it, for $49.99, this is what you could get. And then it's a joke that's related to, obviously, not having to deal with the legal services of what everybody else is normally doing when they reach out to a lawyer. It's shell out some money, but with this is different. You get a bunch of stuff for, so it's those kinds of things that you can, if you have humor, you can build those and kind of send those out. I had like a job one time that was to take a Facebook page to a bar and make it popular. And I was given no budget, nothing. And all I could do was take images and put text and do hot dog night and do this kind of night and just do, just kind of special promotions. And then it slowly, with, my sense of humor, it would get out there. People would like it. They would joke about it. They would pass it around. And I think I took a couple hundred, a Facebook page to like a couple hundred people to 15,000 people all across the nation. So I was like, oh, I think I read, and all I was doing was finding videos, making jokes about it, and just creating humor and kind of, now you guys obviously have a different topic, but you still could listen to, if you come across a good podcast that's talking about a good topic that you could intertwine either for associates or for your members. I think that's what makes people want to open up an email that actually has something that could possibly either help them with something or make a decision or so.
And I think keeping your emails short and kind of focused and short emails are more effective. So Scott had a question about getting emails through with graphics and links and that sort of thing. So what are the best practices there for deliverability on email? Jeremy, you're probably better to speak to that.
You want to build the email with like, sometimes you get links to things that are really, really long. Sometimes those links, the servers will pick up onto for some strange reason. So if you can avoid any of those kinds of links, but you can use link shorteners like bit.ly.com. Graphics, you can, if you get a good graphic, you can put the picture and then have that graphic, if they click it, linked to let's say a video. So if they click the picture, so what I would do is maybe or create a nice little thumbnail of the video, simulate one, use that as your photo. And then if they click it, it actually goes to the video. So now you just have to host it in any of the free hosting places. So you can do that, graphics, PDFs. It's best to not use attachments to things. And so, I mean, that can be another later, like, I guess we could, if there's nobody else that wants to showcase something, or Rick, if Rick Allen wants to do next Thursday, I'll give it to him, or I can do a piece on creating, emails with graphics and videos and how it looks so that you guys can kind of see what it is to, I guess, produce those kinds of things.
Are you noticing any problems with any of the emails that are in the library having issues being delivered? Because most of those do have a graphic. They do often have a link to something. Are we seeing any problems with those being delivered based on that, or?
Deborah did ask me to upload a flyer for Nevada, and she took it Now I tried to, put as much information. Well, I replicated the flyer verbatim, but I just kind of got it all real close together. And she wanted to open it up, make it have a little bit more space in between. I didn't obviously want to have something so long on the email, so I just kind of scrunched it together. When she made a bunch of edits, when she emailed it to herself, there was a bunch of anomalies that we couldn't kind of account for, such as additional spaces and things like that. So when I did it, so I took the email from the library, saved it, and I made small changes. I did 2 or 3 things, stopped, emailed, took a look at it, because at some point you're going to see what you did that obviously was what messed everything up. So I think that's the best bet, is not to do a bunch of changes, because then something's going to happen. You don't know what it is that you did, and you don't have a way of kind of reverting back. So take it slow, couple things at a time, edit them, because in some cases, I guess the way that they're saved or that they're done, or the way that I build them, if you start changing font size. So when we changed font size, it started adding spaces, which we couldn't explain. So
how about, follow on question, he was talking about sending emails with PDF documents, and I think that would kind of be under the don't send attachments.
Yes, but this topic has come up before a lot. I don't know if you guys remember. So there's a way that you upload up the PDF you want to the system. It's highlightable, and then you can kind of press it, and it will take you to the document, which is basically a hosted document of the PDF. So that you take that link and you take it to bit.ly.com and shorten it, and now you can use that in your emails, and that link will take you to the document. So it's not an attachment, right, of the document, but it's just that link. And so you can put a little click here, the link, and then that should, you know what I mean? That should take people to the link. You can also use that same link for that same document. If you make text messages, you'll use that link as well. And when people get the link, whereas
so the hosted document is in Fieldnotes, but you can also, like in my case, I've got Outlook, and I can host and share documents on my Outlook drive, my Office 365 drive. So, I think that what Jeremy is talking about is that Fieldnotes is actually hosting some of the PDFs for us. Is that correct?
So when I asked the developers, right, about this, they said at any moment that link may not be good. But I think there's links that I've used from the day that I started that still work. So for whatever reason, that information is still saved, it's still hosted. If you want, I will show you what I'm talking about. Is that so I think.
And one of the things that I want to, while you're looking for that, Jeremy, I'd like to interject to remind everybody, there are a lot of videos and links and things that are available through Prospect. And I know this is kind of a double-edged sword, because corporate can change those things, and sometimes they don't always communicate that. But the flip side of it is also that those things are hosted. And if you use your Prospect link, then when the member goes and looks at that, if they have a question or if they want to click on to get more information, they're going to go to your hubs or your, wall site. The email request of, hey, I need more, or what about this, or whatever their question is, it's going to go directly to you as the associate. So I do think there is some power, and I know there's some nice snippets back there in Prospect right now around the will prep stuff, and when do you need to get a will, and what's in a will, and what happens if I die without a will. Well, I think some of those video links are, they're short, they're little, 20, 30-second sound bites. Lord forbid, Legal Shield doesn't usually do anything in 20 or 30 seconds. So, but it's some good information, and those links are out there, and you can tie it directly to your prospect information. And that's something that, in reality, I think they put all that stuff out there for this August, get your will done sort of focus. So it's not, maybe not something that will be available long term, but for right now, what we need in the short term, it's out there, they're good, and they're tied directly back to you when you use your prospecting link. So think about that as well.
So what I'm referring to about how do you attach PDFs, obviously you can attach a file. And I'll say this, if you have a good open communication with the customer through the system, then attach a file. I don't think there's anything malicious with it or anything like that. But when you're doing the groups, when you're doing the 300 people at a time, I would possibly not, and I would withhold from attaching anything. But you can see here, we've attached the PDF. And if you click that link, this little in blue, I don't know, does everybody see it? Just so that,
yeah.
And then so my finger, so you click that and it opens up into this window. And you see this huge email address, or the
now, is that an
address.
attachment or is that a link? Okay, that's the link.
This is the link, but obviously putting this into your system, or highlighting this and doing this, you could do this as well. But this is once again that huge link that goes within, that sometimes some servers will detect and say, could be a suspicious link. However, this link takes you to that document. So that since that document is now a link, if you guys can test, but that link that I just put, everybody should be able to click that link, and wherever you guys are, it's going to open up for you, right? So that's what, like, that's the magic. What you can do is bit.ly, you can do one of these and you can link shorten it. And then you can, where is the free? Get started for short link domain. So I guess this is different from before. They used to just have where you can get it right off the site. But so I guess you would sign up for bit.ly. I think there's other places that do the same thing, but you put in the link, it shortens it, and it gives you a smaller address that you can use in the email. But so now that it is like this, you could then, once you have the short link, you can just put that short link in your emails. You can delete this, and if people click that link, it'll take you to the file. So that's what I would suggest. So it doesn't cost you nothing. You don't have to have a Google Drive or host it yourself. Personally, it's just the easiest thing. If you can make a file of these are the links that I use, and every once in a while, just go in and check the links through the file. That way you can kind of stay, okay, if it's 10, but it's in a list, you can just click them, make sure that they're working, and then you can just say, okay, I checked them for the last 6 months. They should be good. And that's how I would kind of stay on top of these links, even with prospect. And I recently saw some of those videos, and I would, you guys now, so I think I'm going on to like 1.5 years knowing you guys. And I think I was here last August where we started putting in some of the will making stuff. But now that I see what Prospect has, they have a whole series of videos and a whole series of content. So now that I've seen it and knowing what I've known and what I know now, that needs to, I would say, whoever wants to build an August, make a will month campaign for just the month of August, I'll, sign me up. Anybody else wants to do a nice little off the set workshop for it, because you've got videos, you've got content, you've got pre-written things, you've got access to this action plan system. So now that I see it like that, I'm like, oh, this is a no-brainer. You could build the month before, right, where all of that's hitting hard, just boom, boom, boom. And then the month of, it's a simple, did you get a chance to look? Did you, you know what I mean? Just nice, soft touches, because you don't want to be a pain in the ass. But, and then I think that needs to obviously be built and then free for you guys to utilize. But looking at what is offered, so yeah, some of those links and some of those videos definitely, I think, can be used to create some material, and can be definitely used, 30 days in advance to get people into the kind of August thing, and then some soft touches. I don't think you'll lose anybody over that. I think they'll just actually be engaged. And those are some of
the other thing that
things.
Jeremy and I talked about was because I've got members in multiple states, and I'm sure many of you have the same challenge. Lots of my members, are in Arizona, but I've got lots of members that are in other states as well. But for the members that are in Arizona, the Arizona law firm is doing a will workshop on the 23rd of August. So Arizona members, I want to make sure that their communication, or that they get an additional invite or communication to the Arizona specific will presentation, so that they can register for that. People outside of Arizona, while it might still be helpful information or useful information, it won't be specific to their state. So in that case, I want to use more of the generic information. So the fact that I can go in and sort by state or any of that sort of thing. But the other thing that I've long wanted to do, and I think I'm finally in a position to start doing this, is actually be able to have a field in Fieldnotes that ties back to the law firm phone number for that state. So when a member gets a communication, like one of my communications around preparing your will is, be sure and contact your provider law firm. Well, how much more convenient would it be if that provider law firm message was right in, that phone number was right in that text message? Because if they hit my phone number, that's going to be a text back to me. That's not helpful. And while I'm giving them a call for action of contact your law firm to start your estate planning process, then they've got to go figure out, well, what's my law firm phone number? So if I can put each law firm phone number somewhere in Fieldnotes tied to the state the member resides in, then I can start including that law firm phone number in the welcome email and in text messages with calls for action that says, call your law firm. How much more convenient is it if they've got that number right there in the message, and they can either just dial it on their phone, or if it's in a text, they can just hit it and call the law firm and do an intake directly from there?
The way you could do that is through the contact. So I have yet to see the person who has every one of these categories used 100%, right? Far and a few. And one that I can think of that's not gonna, I don't think, gonna affect a lot of people is address 3. So you could use that as what you're mentioning, kind of like a smart tag. So of like, you could do a search of zip codes or search states and do little filters, and then find out who those are. And then in address 3, this is the law firm that goes to those people. And then if you smart tag address 3, which of course you can change this and call it law firm, then
state law firm.
Yeah, state law firm, or whatever key phrase that you want to use. And then all you do is you can put that in your emails. And I'm pretty sure you could use that in your signature. So where they're going to go look for your email, why not put like a tag that says law firm, your local law firm number, smart tag.
Is anybody already doing this? I'm sure somebody's thought of it or maybe has already done it.
I have not thought of it, but it's an incredibly good idea.
Oops.
Oh, I put it in individually because I didn't really have a place to put it in here. So how do you do it if you put it in address 3? How do you do all different states? You have, I mean, I was a little confused on how you would pull that.
You would have to do a mass update on address 3 for everybody that's in Arizona.
Okay.
Right. So first thing it is, find out one of these columns that you're not using. Like she mentioned, address 3, I don't ever see any information come in. So this would be a perfect one that you guys could, absorb, is what I would say.
So I guess I'm understanding you're doing the mass update by state. So you have to go in, and so then when you pull that,
you filter state.
Pull all your errors, you'll filter state then.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you select everybody, and then you edit this field, putting in that phone number.
Okay.
And then you should be, and then you can smart tag it in the emails. And then that way it does exactly what Jackie wants, or what Cassie wants, which is, though it's those things that will make your emails even that much more useful.
Effective.
And I don't want to not be subscribed because it has my information. Like she always gives me my information when she emails me, which I think is helpful, because if anything happens, they go to the email and then they see their information, and now that's like their way to find you faster than them, memorizing it or having it in some file or something like that. And so
I just think of how many times I've given this same information to a member or retold them the information, and they still will text me and ask me the question. And, but utilization equals retention, right? We know that. So anything that I can do to facilitate utilization of the plan is just going to help my long-term payday.
Smart. So what I would say is build templates with that stuff so that you can just have easy templates. You can find the contact, send it out, not have to think about it, right? And hopefully not have to, write this email every time, search this information. And so
again, to me, it's about what can we do to automate and streamline the process so that I can touch more people faster in a more effective way.
Yep. And not have to get down to the granular level one by one.
And Bob, you're a master at doing some of this. Have you done any of this, or are you thinking about it, or where have you put it? How have you skinned this cat? Because I know you do use the tool in lots of different ways.
First, I've got to be smart enough to unmute. Jeremy's going to give me a class on that Friday, I think. Right now I'm spending a whole lot of time cleaning up what I've got in there, because kind of what you went through, Cassie, I put a bunch of stuff in before I fully understood what what animal I had set loose. And now I'm trying to get them back in the cage again. So a lot of time is being spent right now cleaning up lists, and right now trying to, as I do that, immediately send out Will stuff, because obviously, and then I just ended up taking over 12 groups from my upline who's retiring, and he's had some medical issues, so he really hasn't been engaged for almost 2 years now. So I'm trying to build those relationships. Hi, I'm a new person, and you haven't seen the old person, and I'm an old person, but I'm a new old person, and so a lot of time's being spent there right now.
And Bob, I can tell you, because I'm doing some of that as well. One of the things I do is reach out and just say, introduce myself just very briefly and request a quick account review to make sure everything is accurate and up to date, and that we can discuss their servicing needs going forward. And I have found groups are very receptive to that. And it's a great sort of initial, they're going to figure out who you are, and they're going to see, how the system works and what's going on, and you're going to make sure everything's right for them. And then it just leads naturally to the how do we best service you kind of discussion. And I'm getting ready to send out 16 of those emails today. Exactly the same thing. And I, of course, give them the link to my calendar to schedule directly if they want, or they can just email me back and let me know what's, some good times for them, and we'll get them on the schedule. But I just think that going into Q4 of this year, that's going to be more critical than ever because of just the volume we've got to get through. Yeah.
Thanks. Good pointers, Cassie, as always. Thanks.
So does anybody have any questions to what we discussed or what was taking place? I'm going to try to put everything that Cassie gave to me into an email and send it out to everybody so that everybody has it. But besides that, was there any questions when it comes to Sparky? I know Stella was eager to see what was said. Do you think that this make it, do you feel that this makes it easier for you now? Are you going to dig into Sparky a little bit more and make a jump?
Well, I've got to just understand the mechanics of using Sparky. This was extremely valuable in terms of knowing what I could do in terms of getting my group's information out of
Legal Shield
at work into this. I still, again, I'm missing the mechanics. I just need a tutorial on how to effectively use Sparky. And I haven't found a video because there's 1,000 of them back there yet that totally explains that to me, but I'll get it figured out.
I think there's some old
and
ones.
Stella, what I would encourage you to think about is think about Sparky as your administrative assistant, and just, if tell Sparky what you would tell an administrative assistant. This, take this file, put it in the system, any special instructions you have, because what I found was just by doing it, and hopefully, because I did put all the kind of step-by-step instructions of go to Shield at work, do this, download the report here, make these changes, then send it to Sparky. Because to me, those gaps were the things that kind of like Bob's talking about, where I just didn't know what I didn't know when I first started using the Fieldnotes. It wasn't even Sparky, it was using the system. Sparky is just kind of my conduit to get the information from that Excel spreadsheet into the database so that I don't have to worry about mapping the data or figuring any of that out. So I did that for a long, long time. Now I'm starting to map data a little bit, which is a different learning curve. But, I just say initially, if you're like me, you want it in the CRM and you don't really want to figure out how to get it all mapped over there, let Sparky do that for you, because he certainly can.
Okay.
Yeah. So just start at the top level, take a baby step and see what happens. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, and it'll give you confidence to take the next step. And hopefully
it sounds like it's an answer to prayer, but I just got to figure out how to get down on my knees and understand it.
Well, and if you and I need to do maybe a little one-on-one, you got my number, right? So reach out and we'll schedule a little time if you need help with the first step or two.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime.
Cassie, I just have a quick question kind of on Bob's note is, going back now that we have more information. And so say you've got all your groups in there, but now it's like, oh my gosh, that sales cycle, I really need to have that. Short of going in individually and putting that in, can you send Sparky the file again with those added columns?
And ask Sparky to update.
Or you could just tell Sparky to filter a specific group. Like filter, if you can filter it, you can tell Sparky to filter it. and then to apply sales cycle status, this one, disposition it this way, that way. And then Sparky should add all of those instructions, like
And
one, do the filter.
the other option is if all you're changing is one thing, if you're just adding that one thing, you can just do a mass group edit and just do the whole group that way without even sending anything to Sparky. So there's a multiple ways to skin that cat, Allison.
Okay, thanks.
But I mean, if you wanted to keep the topic towards Sparky, it's just if it's something that you can do, you just have to kind of go through the steps so that Sparky can then still get to the same filtered contacts. But if you can filter by the group number, that's going to bring everybody with that group number, right? And then you can say, give sales cycle status active group or active member, that kind of thing.
And kind of how I did that on the groups that I loaded before I understood, why that was important or how I was going to use that, was as I've gone in and serviced the groups, I'll go in and search on the group name, right? Because I know they're in there. I've loaded them in there in mass when I first started. So in that case, I actually, as I'm servicing the groups, I'll add those notes in. So, as I'm, servicing the group and doing whatever, and I realize, oh, this was one of the ones I loaded before I knew how important this was. So now I take the minute and check the boxes or fill in the statuses that I need. So I've done it kind of both ways. But as you're working in the database, just pay attention to those things as you're going along, and you can usually get it sorted out pretty quickly that way too.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Well, appreciate all you. I know everybody on this call has contributed to the betterment of this group, and I appreciate that. I've learned something from all of you as well. So hopefully this was helpful. And as you have new people coming on board, I think this is probably, Stella is a great example. The first step that people struggle with is, how do I get my stuff from over here to over there so I can do something with it? Yeah. And, we're continuing to chip away at that, but hopefully this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it looks so promising. I'm like, really, it's just phenomenal from what I can see. So.
It is.
Perfect.
Well, and Stella, the other thing that's amazing about it is it can impact way beyond Legal Shield. I'm using this for every organization I'm part of, from my church through Toastmasters and everything else. And coordinating meetings, coordinating birthday messages, all kinds of things. So it's like having a personal assistant for your life.
Good note.
I just keep plugging away. That flyer that you brought out, the interactive one, that's a new one. Is that the new one that's out there, or was that one that someone created, or what?
It was yeah. Well, it was yes to all of that. So this is the old view. Let me go back to the new view.
I think that's a Nevada specific flyer, right?
But that is true. And I also, let me just get back. Here we go. So in the message templates, it is under the library, and it is the Legal Shield. And so because it was a Legal Shield and ID Shield kind of combination flyer, I created a folder for interactive flyer by state. And then this one says Nevada.
Okay, but I like the way they laid that out. It's excellent.
But yeah, so this is what I was working with Deborah. She took it from here onto her own place, and then changed this font a little bit here, but by making specific changes. So what she did is she changed the font here and sized it up, and that caused extra spaces to appear when it looked good, but she emailed it to herself and it looked different. So it's those kinds of things. I always tell people, put yourself in the system, be the guinea pig, create stuff, send it to yourself, look at it before you just start sending stuff willy-nilly, because it may not, and it may not look good on Google, but it may look good on Apple. You really want to kind of see where the fine median is when building these out. So we just made a couple of changes, put some spaces. We kind of increased the size, but put these on different levels or on different lines. So it looks like it didn't affect too much, and it didn't create any weird anomalies, and she was able to space it out. I thought, you know, for the phone, for just to kind of get all the information in there as much as possible, these hyperlink to the Legal Shield where they can download
the apps.
Yeah, to the apps. And so, and then she asked to, so this is another PDF connected to the email. So when they click this, it takes them to a PDF. She found that the PDF is the plan coverage. It's more for, I guess, corporate. So she ended up not wanting to use this, but she, in the beginning, asked to, because this is like a 5-page PDF. I said, it's pretty long.
Is that like the contract or something?
Yeah, I think, well,
the proposal or something.
Plan details, probably.
Oh, okay. So that is out there, and we can pull that down and massage it more for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a proposal.
Yeah, the proposal. So this is obviously not to the user level, kind of the way that the
there's a place that you can go on your wall site when you bring up a particular plan, and it just says detail, what does it say? Plan details, and you can click on that, and it gives you basically what we call the contract, so the member can look to see exactly what's covered, which is something that they're going to get anyway, because that's basically outlines what their membership looks like and what is covered. So that might be a place to go if you want to do something like that.
Okay.
That's outside of this system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, it's in our wall site.
So yeah, so this is where I decided to put the interactive flyers by state. Let me see if it shows up.
In most cases, interactive flyers are not going to be by state, unless that's the case, because I think we've only got 4 or 5 states now that are unique. Coverage and rates are pretty consistent now across the country.
Yeah, she said do it just for her, but then I said, well, what if somebody else could use it? Then I find myself, then I have to do it, you know, I have to find the way to copy it over and get it over. So I said, let's just find a place to put it. And so yeah, that's where I just decided to kind of keep it.
So is there a generic one outside of Nevada that's like that? The one that you just created for her?
If you look at the folder above that, the Legal Shield and ID Shield combo plans.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think that's where in the library you'll see those. I don't know if they're formatted exactly the same way. I'm not real fond of how corporate has formatted things recently, because the font is so small, and with the lighter gray ink, which is Allison's favorite thing about our documents.
Makes me crazy. Makes me want to drink.
And you
the family dual credit advice, if you click on that next one down, Jeremy. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit more like, so that's a little bit more the non-state specific there.
Yeah, that's the one I'm using for almost all my enrollments.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of the other one that we were just looking at, what I like about that is I've opened up a couple of groups, and I'm doing it I mean, I did an in-person presentation, but I want to also get information back out there to them. And I like that summary that they had on the side. That's what I really liked. And plus I can send that to the HR person and just have them posted on the bulletin board. It's easier, it's in one spot, it's easier to read. I think on this one you have to flip it or something. I'm not sure.
If you
This
like
one is-
this one,
This one is definitely a 2-pager. One side is just an overview, and then the second.
Right, right. But this is all on one page. I like that.
right? I mean, if you do like this, you can edit it to obviously
Right.
speak the way that you
Yeah, I
want.
was just asking if it was out there for other than Nevada, but I can go in and
Yeah, you can edit it
modify
if
it.
you wish. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But and then remove this part, but all you have to do is just delete it and then
Right.
you're set. But
Mhm.
yeah, so that's the new file that I put up.
All right. Thank you.
All
Thank
righty,
you for
everybody.
sharing.
So I thank you for showing up. It was a great conversation.
Definitely.
I thank Cassie for
Yeah,
putting
thank
this
you,
together,
Cassie.
spending the time.
Yes, thank
This is
you.
special. I know a
Happy to
lot of
help.
people are going to use it. And
Mhm.
so,
Very helpful. Mhm.
all righty, everybody. You have a great day. It was a pleasure speaking to everybody.
Thanks,
Okay,
man.
looking forward to Rick next. Is Rick next week?
I don't know. I'll have to, talk to him and I'll have to bribe him somehow. I know he's all about the bribes.
Yeah, I think he got voluntold, didn't he?
Let me see if he's still. Nope, he's not here anymore.
He's
But
gone.
I think he heard us in the beginning. So I'll begin to see
Okay.
what he wants. We got some
All
time.
right. Thank you.
Okay.
All righty, everybody.
Mhm.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. Bye bye now.